Hey guys, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today's topic is actually going to be DNA and privacy. Now, if you were not aware, it has been 1 year or so since police used DNA to actually catch the Golden State Killer. And if you are not aware of that case, briefly what ended up happening is the police put the Golden State Killer's DNA into a public DNA database where a lot of people put their stuff, found relatives, and basically they were able to go ahead and find who the Golden State Killer was by virtue of the family tree of DNA. Now, I find this very interesting because we've had 1 year since that case, and we have actually had 50 more major cases solved due to genetics and family tree. But here's the thing. And first, let's go through the benefits of this real quick before we dive into the possible negatives. This new technology, or rather this new forensic science, has the possibility to crack literally tens of thousands of cases, and by virtue of that, it has given rise to basically a new forensic science business, and it has created the formation of dedicated family tree building police units, meaning a lot of large police organizations are literally taking suspects' DNA, and then they have an entire unit that is going to try to find family members that have submitted their DNA to various databases and whatnot, especially those that are public, to see if they can actually solve cases in this manner, because DNA, for the most part, doesn't lie. Now, by virtue of this, there has actually been a home marketing kit or a home DNA kit that's been marketed that basically says, you give us your DNA and you might be able to help solve a crime, and that is growing into a lucrative business. But here's the downsides to these. We have some serious privacy concerns by virtue of all of this happening, and we are starting to lose control of our DNA, not necessarily because we have opted into these, but because our relatives aren't on the same page as us. Now, for example, a single DNA user, meaning if I give my DNA out, can unknowingly cast a web of legal suspicion around hundreds of family members, because we have our nuclear family, and then cousins, second cousins, aunts, uncles, etc., and on and on and on. Our bloodlines go pretty vast when you think about it, and if we go far enough back. But here's the thing. Like, let's say there is a murderer in my family tree. I am casting suspicion, thanks to my DNA, on pretty much anybody that is in my family line. Now, here's the other thing about this. These hundreds of members of my family, maybe they haven't submitted DNA, but they also haven't consented to a police search, and they haven't taken the DNA tests. And so we have no laws or policies governing how and when the police can use forensic genetic genealogy, and that is a serious problem. Basically, what this means is that prosecutors are going to have to defend the constitutionality of this technique when the first slew of cases go to trial. So, in other words, let's say I have never given consent to have my DNA taken. My relatives don't care, and they have. Is that actually legal? I didn't consent. Why are you running my DNA? Where's your court order? I think that's what we're going to be seeing here. And so it's interesting because in January of this year, BuzzFeed actually revealed that in addition to GED Match, which is where the Golden State Killer came from, and a whole bunch of the other cases that are public, now federal law enforcement is getting into this. And the FBI actually went to Family Tree DNA and went in and started looking at all of this. And Family Tree DNA basically said, well, it's our moral obligation to supply all of your genetic information that you have given to us to federal law enforcement pretty much when they want it. And they rewrote their privacy policies on that. And so what happens retroactively, if you signed up before that policy change, where's the legal ground on that? And so that is the question today. Do we have control of our DNA? We really don't. And studies have shown that if we have exactly 2% of the entire global population submitting their DNA to a DNA database, we literally have DNA references on 100% of the entire global population. That is an actual scary thing. Some of us don't necessarily want our genetic profile out there, but by virtue of our blood relatives, no matter who they are, part of us is. And so what do we do with this? What does the law look like? How do we codify this? We are starting to see privacy laws for our personal information, whether in Facebook, Google, and a whole bunch of other stuff like Europe's GDPR, California's spinning one up, but we don't have a GDPR. We don't have a set of privacy standards for that which makes us wholly unique, and that is our DNA. And so how do we fix this? What does that look like? Should we have this completely available to everybody? Should we be able to keep it private? Have our relatives completely screwed us? And if so, how do we sever our connection to our relatives online if they are completely opting into giving their DNA to a database or law enforcement or anything else? Can we even do that? It's an interesting question, but as we see an explosion of forensics happen, this is going to be the future. And so how we safeguard that information becomes very important. And so that is your news of the day. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, guys.